Speak the truth. With Carl West.
Speak the truth.
With Carl West.
Speak the truth. Speak the truth. Speak the truth.
Yeah, Carl West.
Tell everybody.
Speak the truth, baby.
Ooh.
It's a podcast for truth. Are your ears ready? For Carl West. Are your ears ready? Speak the truth. Let's go, King Farley with Carl West. Yeah, he is. Your ears. Carl West. Carl West.
Hey.
Carl West. Carl West.
Yeah.
Carl West. Carl West. Carl West. Carl West. Carl West.
Yo, what's up? It's Carl West back at you. Another episode of Speak the Truth with Carl West. That's right, Speak the Truth with Carl West. I'm back at you for another episode. Look, I'm going to go right into this. But first I want you to subscribe, like, share, hit the notification button. Do all those things that we need to happen in order for you to get this content in your inbox or wherever you get it on your YouTube channel. We just need you to subscribe. We're trying to get those numbers up, and we appreciate it if you help us do that. Please, can you help us do that? Get these numbers up, okay? Just subscribe. Real simple. Hit the subscribe button. You like it, and at some point down the road you don't like it, unsubscribe. It's a simple thing to do. But right now, we need you to subscribe because I think you're going to like the content. You like the content. You've made comments about it, so let's get into this. Look. This is about the Great Divide. Yep, the Great Divide. I was having a long conversation with someone, and this is what prompted this particular podcast. And of course, it centered around the guy in the White House. A lot of conversations today seem to be centered around him. I try to minimize my conversations about him. I try to focus on the solutions for the people. What do we need to do to offset whatever he's doing? To me, that's the conversation we should be having at a very high clip. We should be having that conversation every day, all day, as much as we having a conversation about always just critiquing what he's doing or what he's saying or what he's done. Because it's really just a repetitive thing. We know what he's capable of. He's shown it. We know what he has a desire to do. He's talked about it. It's been written in Project 2025. And so now we have to create our own Project 2040. And it's about poverty, taking cats from poverty to prosperity. I think our leaders across the country need to come together almost monthly to have discussions about that. But I'm not going to go into that at this particular moment. I want to get into, again, this great divide that we have, that we see happening in this country. And I had come to a conclusion that it's always going to be about race. It's always going to be about race. This country is a bigoted country. Let's just call it what it is. And fortunate enough, everybody on either side, from whatever racial group you land on, everybody in those groups are not racist. I think it may be 60-40. I want to give it 70-30 not being racist, but I want to keep it at 60-40. And I believe that that's across the board with all nationalities. I think black people, racism level has gone up. It wasn't that at first. I think we was the least racist people in the world. We probably were angry people. We were upset with how this country had treated black folks over these 250 years that we celebrate now. But it's definitely been a longer run of destruction on black people's liberties. And so I think that we had not been racist people, and we probably are still not racist people. We probably just angry and hurt and tired of this battle for freedom and equality that should be a right for all living people on this earth. They should have a right to have no interference, no roadblocks in trying to have freedom and prosperity. And unfortunately, that's not what this America has been about. This country has been about, for that matter. It has seemed to want to create roadblocks to be disruptive in the movements of select groups of people, not just blacks, but definitely blacks, as I can see. But this great divide, I think, is more about ideologies today. It may have been about racism before. Well, of course, you probably time changes, people's ideas change, people's thoughts change, people ideologies change, because we get new groups of generations in, a generation of people who've grown and matured, or either they just been indoctrinated with different types of philosophies, religion, whatever it may be. But I think this is a fight about ideologies and not necessarily racism, even though racism is probably embedded in that ideology, because when you see people as less than through just histories of false propaganda, I think you become to believe that. I don't think there's no evidence whatsoever that can say that any other race, any one race or group is less than another group. There's no evidence to say that at all. There's no evidence. We are all God's children. We are all, it's just like all God's animals, lions, zebras, giraffes. They have difference in terms of their culture and how they survive, whether they survive in packs or they survive individually or they hunt in packs. That's the same thing with the color barriers, the color code as humans. But we are all God's children, just like all those particular animals, different kinds of birds. They are all God's creation. And so, but I don't think one is no better than the other. They just have different ways of cultural differences more so, not necessarily physical differences, mental, intellectual differences. No, I mean, I think that your mind prospers and increases and get better with what education it gives you, that, and just experience gives you a different mindset from another person who hasn't experienced what you've experienced, vice versa. Haven't had high level education versus poor level educations, which we see. And I think that maybe that's what they may be banking their theory on. The fact is that, if these folks graduated from Ivy League schools, Ivy League colleges, and then they look at another group of people who've got only, no disrespect, but city college education, then they may feel that, yeah, we are better than you. And definitely the education is better. It is, just a fact. But are you better than me as a human being? Probably not. You are equal to me as a human being. We just have different educational skill levels. And yours may be better, a little better, because you went to an Ivy League school and there's a different level of education requirements and than at a city college. But nonetheless, this great divide is about ideologies. And it's about the ideologies of Democrat versus Republican. I think these people, this cult, they both cults. They are both cults. Definitely the Republicans have proven that their cult is very serious, but they're very serious when they in the power base, just like when Democrats was in power under Biden or Clinton or Barack Obama and whoever else. They had a cult-like following. that means that they rolled with the Democratic Party on all things, even if it was wrong things, they rolled with it. So that's what we see now with the Republicans. They are standing by their man at all costs, even though he may be wrong on a lot of issues. That cult-like following is on both sides, and they both have come to at least demonstrate publicly, and I'm gonna say that, demonstrate publicly a hatred for each other, when I know, and we all should know, that these folks probably assemble together when off camera, when not on their job as a Republican and a Democrat. They all assemble together and do the things that people do as friends, associates. They golf, they do family vacations, they enjoy each other's companies when the cameras are off, when they having more leisure time. It's just that when that camera is on and they sharing those two different cultural identities, Democrat, Republicans, they have to put on for the camera, and they put on real well to make us believe that they have a hatred for each other. But they all are just, when you get into power, you want to stay there. When you're not in power, you trying to get it. And so they understand what this power mechanism brings them as a body of Democrats, a body of Republicans, and what it brings their families, their friends, their business associates, their investors, their donors. When you in power, you have people responsible that you're responsible for, because they helped you obtain that power, and you have to make sure you secure them well and repay them for their contribution to you getting in that power base. Whether you're a Democrat, or whether you're a Republican, like who's in power now, at least in power in terms of the head, the White House. But they all still have leverages of power, because they sitting in these sacred halls of the Congress and Senate. That's power in itself. We're talking about having who holds the trophy. It's just like sports. Who holds the trophy, the title, until the next team comes along and try to dethrone the person who's sitting there with the title. And of course, the Republican has the trophy. But again, they all are sitting in some forms of power. It is that ultimate power. But the ideology that they share in this great divide is really centered around way of life. Way of life, really. Do your way of life coincide with my way of life? And unfortunately, that's not the case in this country, because and they utilize the words rich and poor and middle class, because there's a different philosophy about life when you are in those brackets. It just really is. When you are poor, your philosophy about life, your ideology about your lifestyle differs tremendously from someone who is wealthy, whether they came from wealth or whether they inherited wealth or whether they built a business or whether they built something that brought them wealth and power and influence. Along that process, your philosophies and your ideology will change from being poor to now one day being rich and secure. I use Jay-Z as an example. I love his example of how he has changed his whole thought pattern and ideas, and you can hear it when he had these interviews lately. You can hear his thought pattern and how it has changed from the time when he was a poor man in the hood trying to ascend to where he's at now. He had an objective to be not necessarily a billionaire, maybe, I don't know, but he definitely knew that he wanted to be out of poverty. He didn't want to be on the blocks. And as he traveled that path of removing himself from this place to a place of more comfort and security for him and his family, his philosophy changed. His ideology changed. And it has to. You know, like they say, that philosophy, you can be born in the hood, but you don't have to be of the hood. And that's pretty much for real, because when you was born in the hood and grew up in the hood, there's a different philosophy about how you survive, how you maintain, and the level of things that you don't take you take for granted. You don't make a priority. You just kind of dealing with the bare basics, and then as you start acquiring these things, it changes you. And I think that this is what this fight is about. It's about the ideologies of people. Do you want to live in a world of peace and freedom? That's why they use that whole thing about safety, right? If you poor, you ain't really concerned with safety. It's not a conversation you have, because you've never been in a safe environment. You've always been in a struggling environment where somebody can easily come in and take your television when you go to sleep, or when you go to work or go to school or just travel the block. Somebody can come take your radio and take your car. It's just a normal thing that happens in that environment where there's poverty around you. And so safety is not even a part of the conversation. But as you acquire things and move away from that, where you literally have less mechanism to protect you. You may have a camera, but it's just there. It's not really because you're worried about somebody coming into your home, because it's less likely to happen, because you're probably living in a gated community, or the neighborhood you living in, and everybody is like-minded in their thought and their ideology like you, so you don't have to worry about that. This country is moving towards that. It's moving towards, and that's what Trump talked about, this migration thing. What did he do? He labeled these immigrants in this horrendous way to let people know that that kind of ideology, if you have that kind of ideology where you're a criminal, you're a sex offender, you don't care about life, you don't care about the safety of man, you don't care about your own safety, and then we don't want you to be a part of this society. And that's why they talk about the rich and the poor. Because if you're rich, your ideology is different. Versus if you're middle class and poor, they know you don't have a concern about certain things that to them are important. And they are trying to separate this divide. Definitely racism is there, and it's a part of it, but I just don't think that it's the bulk of it. Racism always going to have its play. But I think they are really, this great divide is really about separating and getting away from, literally getting away, distance themselves tremendously from people that will cause us, the wealthy, the rich, where our ideology, our mindset is on. We sitting around trying to worry about safety. We worried about just making sure our children have the right education, can grow up in a nice environment, can think about their futures long term. We don't want to be around and have these conversations injected into our lives every day, whether they're on television or on social media, where we dealing with people whose ideology is not like ours, and those ideologies are causing chaos and dysfunction and pain. And a lot of times we have to accept that it's the fault of some of those people causing chaos and pain. Now let me just say this completely. There are criminals in terms of bad actors at that high level too. They just white collar criminals, and they causing pain and destruction too. And a lot of them get away with it. Just the way a lot of lower level criminals get away with committing murders and robbery and thievery and carjackings. They get away with it, and these white collar criminals get away with it as well. Some get caught on both sides, and if they get caught, they got to pay the price. You get caught with your hand in a cookie jar, you have to pay the price. I think this great divide that we hear, that we see, and that we're hearing on the Republican and Democratic side is basically based on an ideology. And I'll say it again, I believe it's an ideology that both sides, when you are Democrat or Republican, and again, and you are in that Congress, in that Senate, and you are of high level income, and your lifestyle is not one of walking around worried about security, or safety. You really just, again, concerned about making sure my children have a great education. I'm able to have a great, peaceful life for the time that I've put in to get to this place, whether through working and having an education, an extended education, a secondary education, or I built a business that brought me tremendous profit, and I want to be able to enjoy that without the headaches of all the other stuff that I maybe experienced when I didn't have these things, because they all, a lot of people come from places before they get to another place. This is what I believe. It's going to be a part 2 to this, because I want to go in deeper, but I want to cut it off right now. There's going to be a part 2 to this great divide, and I want to go in deeper into this because I've been thinking about it. As I talk about, this is not necessarily about racism, which racism is always at the forefront of basically everything in different ways or another. But this is mainly about the ideology, the thinking of man and woman, but the thinking of man. How do you think? What do you want to see happen for this country as it goes to the next 250 years? Where will you sit? Where have you been? Have you contributed to the 250 years of this country's and its evolution and its innovation? Have your mind contributed, your body, your spirit, your soul contributed to 250, or have you been somebody who's just rolling and doesn't even care about from day to day about what your life will look like? That's the ideology, good, bad, and indifferent, and that's the great divide. Hey, I'm Carl West, holla back.
It's a beautiful day. Let the children play. They ain't feeling no pain. It's a beautiful day. Wake up in the morning, it's a wonderful feeling. It's good to be living, feel it all in my